Hello, welcome to the August 30th, 2022 Club Cubase live stream. My name is Greg Undo, and I am the host for the live stream. I'm going to do a quick audio test and make sure that everything is coming through as expected. Bear with me just for a moment. Okay, everything sounds okay on my monitoring computer. So as I mentioned before, my name is Greg Undo. I work for Yamaha Corporation of America as a product specialist, primarily focusing on Steinberg products. And I'm presenting from outside of Washington, D.C. area in Alexandria, Virginia today. And if you have... if you are watching the live stream live, please feel free to introduce yourself and tell us where you're from. How the live stream works is we could ask questions in advance by sending an email to clubcubase@steinberg.de, or we could just simply ask the questions live in the chat field. When asking questions, if you could specify which version of the program you're running, so like Cubase LE, AI, Elements, Artist, or Pro. And also, if you could indicate which operating system, whether you're running on Mac OS or Windows, and which version of Cubase, so it's 10, 10.5, 11, or 12. So that information is helpful. If you don't see an immediate response to your question, if we could try to refrain from asking the same question over and over again, that would be appreciated. Just kind of slows down the whole live stream. And we should have all of the topics covered in today's live stream pinned to the top of the comments field. So look forward to that shortly after the live stream ends, a couple of hours. I have to go back and rewatch the live stream and enter it in with timestamps. So we will be doing that. Also, if you wanted to search for topics that have been covered in previous live streams, you can go to cubaseindex.com, and we want to thank Jan for setting up that website from Stockholm. And we have two people that serve as moderators, which will be Jazz Dude and Agent K. They're not Steinberg employees. They just kind of do this out of the goodness of their hearts. And also want to give special thanks to Jazz Dude for all of his efforts in compiling information for the Cubase Nation Discord. Today is the last live stream of the month, so we'll go about 2 hours, and then we'll migrate to a Zoom meetup so that we could all meet each other. It's always fascinating conversation, so I posted the link a little bit earlier. So we'll try to go for about 2 hours and then migrate over to the Zoom social meetup. And so I look forward to these every month. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So again, just feel free to ask any questions. I'm on a new keyboard today. I spilled some water accidentally on my keyboard about 20 minutes before the live stream, so I may get some of my keyboard shortcuts backwards. So I'll apologize in advance for that. All right. So we see Peter from Montreal. We see Jazz Dude. We have Stefan checking in from Sweden. All right. And we have Uno Memento checking in from Finland, who's saying that summer is over and autumn is beginning. All right. Okay. And we see Jan from Stockholm. We see Dallas LaRue checking in from Las Vegas, and we have Soren in Sweden. We have Pete from the Netherlands. Thanks for joining us again. All right, we have Adam Clarks checking in from Lyon, France. I'm sure I pronounced that wrong. John Costigan from Kenosha, Wisconsin. We have the venerable Roger Hooper. It's always a pleasure to have Roger Hooper on. All right, and we have Diamond District Studios from South Africa, Savio from India, Lars checking in from Germany, Hole from California, and we have Susan checking in from Dundee, Scotland. Thanks for joining us. Chip Richter from Ohio. We have Jerry Studios checking in from Ghana. Thanks for being a part of the live stream. All right, and we have Nick checking in from Essex. And all right, we'll see if I don't think we've had any questions yet. We'll see if there's any questions. I come in. All right, and we have Larry checking in from Brampton, Canada. We have Passion Space saying hi. All right, so we have Damon checking in from Austin, Texas. And Brian Sawyer from Wilmington, North Carolina. We have Gokul checking in from India. Perry Michael Allen checking in from Amsterdam. All right, and we have Romania from Jacob. We have David Reuter and Kristen Parisi from Nashville and Big Tent Songwriting Productions. All right, I'm just going to circle back, make sure I didn't miss any questions. It's wonderful to see people from all over. Okay. All right, so we have a question. Hello from Amsterdam. Could you explain the function of the Ambisonics first, third groups, please? So Ambisonics is kind of an audio format. I'm not such an expert in it, but what it's going to allow you to do is to have basically audio that's going to where it could be set to spherical, so where sound could be more immersive to work with. So as we start off, we could add different. So when we go to add a track, I could come over here. So say we wanted to add a track, so we could choose whether we want this to be, so we'll choose audio file here, and we can say we want this to be not only our configuration for mono stereo, but we could choose different ambisonics. So there's first order, which has, I think, 4 channels, second and third order ambisonics. So now that we kind of come over here, we could add our ambisonics encoder. So if we wanted to, at this point, route a particular channel, let me just add that audio channel one more time. Okay, so as we would come over here, we could deal with more kind of spherical audio, where audio could kind of be more immersive for different surround sound functions, and that's what the Ambisonics does. It's often used kind of for gaming work. So the first through third just allow you to have more independent channels within the Ambisonics. All right, so we had a question. Any specific guidelines for exporting projects to VST Live? So when you do VST Live, it's a wonderful tool, and VST Live can import the Cubase projects. With some of the things to be aware of is that the VST Live will not carry over the automation. So if you are exporting a particular project, if you're exporting a particular project for VST Live, I would make sure that all of the particular automation is kind of embedded in the file itself. So that way, if you have a lot of extensive automation, but Cubase VST Live will just import that. But just kind of be aware that if you have extensive automation, that you may want to kind of burn or have the automation kind of embedded in the files themselves, and you could do that through render in place or utilizing different functions such as when you do exporting files. But other than that, it's pretty seamless. And if you wanted to take a VST Live session, we could import your VST Live session directly here, and if we wanted to export, we could just go to VST Live. But the one thing to be aware of is if your project has a lot of automation, that maybe you ought to kind of burn that into the files, because VST Live won't really necessarily carry that over. So all right, so we have Jacob says composer Nuendo 12. That's great. And we have Melbourne here. So I'm not sure if it's Melbourne, Florida or Australia. So either way, we're happy to have you. I got to go to Melbourne, Australia on vacation once about 18 years ago. Loved it. So. All right, so we have a question. Can you show us a simple way to create a tape stop effect in Cubase? Thanks. So we could utilize... Sorry, just spilled some more water on the device. Hang on here. All right, so if we wanted to create kind of a tape stop effect, one of the plugins that's included is we could come directly over to, you'll have a loop mash FX. So let's say if we have a particular audio file here and I wanted to do a quick tape stop, I would go to my inserts. And on the inserts, I would choose, I think it's under other, and go to loop mash FX. So as we wanted to just come over here, there's a couple of different tape stop options. So as we would play, and we could actually, you notice that this will be kind of set up like a piano keyboard. So we could actually just kind of play these. So if I wanted to. And you could actually have these all on different speeds as well. So you can set kind of a different pulse as we play. So let's say we'll just kind of play this, and now as we do this. So we could choose kind of different speeds for your tape stop. So if you want it to be slow. So you could just kind of automate. And there's other types of effects that you can do directly in Loop Mash FX. So if you wanted to take other functions and more kind of like DJ style effects you could do. But again, just come right over here and if you want it to be slower or faster, you can adjust. So play around with Loop Mash FX, and again, it's going to be found under Other. So all sorts of great performance effects that you could have right there. Okay, so we see just a question. Hi, I'm working with a video Nuendo. Is there a way to use multiple timelines? So I'm not sure if you wanted to see different timelines, like different formats, but if we wanted to just go to add track and go to ruler track, that we could see bars and beats here for our master. And if I wanted to see this time in seconds and I wanted to see another timeline here, so we could say, okay, if for this ruler track, and we have multiple ruler tracks, I wanted to see this as time code, so we could basically see different time format representations here in bars and beats, in seconds, or time code. So let me know if that's what you mean by multiple time formats. Okay, so we have a question. When making 1 hour mixes, is there any way after you're done, Cubase can give you the timestamps with track names? So if we come over, we could say, let's go to so we could see this information. So if you wanted to see the timestamps of the file, so let's say I'll just go to a different project with some more audio in it. All right, so as we're working here, we could just say, okay, we're going to have a number of audio files. So if we wanted to see the timestamps, if we go to the media menu, we could go to pool, and at this point we could see kind of the origin time. And if we wanted to move that directly over closer to the name of the file, we could just simply adjust kind of the position. So, and we can see the origin time based on the current time format. So now if we wanted to switch our master time, I think if we switch that to seconds, that we could come over here. Let's go to the media, and then we go to the pool window, that we could see our different time. So if, I don't know if you needed to have it printed out, but also let's say if we go to our project browser, let's see if it has it. So we could see kind of the names indicated here. So let's say if I just hold down so you could see it kind of in the track data too. So let me know if that's helpful for kind of what you want to get accomplished with that. So you could see it either in the project browser or the pool window. So, but if I misunderstood, just let me know. All right, so we have Rich Schweitzer checking in from West Palm Beach, where it's steamy. Okay, we have Jackshot Records from Canada. Okay, so we see question, is there any way when you put 10 to 15 tracks, Cubase automatically puts one song after another? So let's say if I assume that this is for like a single audio file. So let's say I come here to new project, and I will import files. Okay, so let's say I wanted to import all these files. And at this point, it will ask us, do we want to insert objects to one track or insert to different tracks? So I'll just choose one track. And now at this point, all of my different songs are going to be imported. If I wanted to now put like a space between each of those events, I could come over here to my project menu, and then as I go to edit, I think under functions we could set a spacer. So let's say I want 2 seconds of silence between each of the clips. We could just set that up right there, so we could add silence. So let me know if that's what you want to do. So if you want to bring in like single tracks, multiple audio files onto one single track, as you go to import, just choose import to one track. I see just nice comment from Jazz Dude. It says, always have a spare mouse and keyboard in the cupboard. Even a $25 set will do. So yeah, I try to have it. I gave away my backup one just in kind of as getting rid of, decluttering recently. So, all right. All right, so we see Filter Freak just saying he's back for the best live channel on the planet. So thank you for the kind words. All right, so I just see, hi, I'm not sure if it's a statement or a question. Hi, I'd like to see in next version the possibilities of Mixer, its possibility. So I'm not sure if you want to see functions in the Mixer or what exactly. So maybe if you could clarify, that would be great. All right, so we see just a question. Any solution for creating macros bring Mix Console to front so that you can perform functions on the Mix Console? Currently, I would first have to click the console, then perform the macros. So yeah, there is kind of a way of being able to do this. So let me just open up a particular project here that might be more applicable. And we covered this recently in a live stream. So, you know, sometimes macros would need to have a particular window focus. So let me see what I've created 2 macros recently for this. So let me just... I think we just did this a couple of... Okay, so I think we did something similar to this where in this macro, what I did is I created so we wanted to hide the input channel. So depending on if the mix console is the active window or not. So sometimes what we could do is if depending on what state the mix console is in. So let's say I'm here and I want to automatically hide the input channels on the mixer. So, but you know, the mixer may be open, it may not be open. So let's say I have 2 input channels here and I have my mixer. So if I have my project window, let's say I'll just try to... All right, so if I have my project window active, some functions may require that the mixer is activated first before doing that. So to ensure that we could activate the mixer, so let's say I have my input channels and I'm going to click my project window here. So in the macro, what I've done is I just told, so we wanted to kind of create the actual state. So we said, okay, we're going to hide. So what I want to do is first set it to project bring to front. And that brings the focus to the project window. And then we say devices mixer. Then the focus will be put onto the, directly onto the mix console. And then we could do our functions there. So if this is the... if the mix console is active, then the focus will go to the project window, then back to the mix console. And then if the project window is active, it'll do the same thing. So try doing, so if I wanted to run this particular macro, so I'm going to activate this particular, my project window. So again, we're going to tell it to go to the project window. And I think I had it set, sorry, for hide input channels. So now that is hidden. So this will force the focus to the project window and then to the mix console. So let's say I wanted to now see my input channels. And as we have all of our input channels here on the mixer, I have my mix console selected. And then I want to, so this is the current active window. So again, I'll just do the hide input channels. And we get the same result. So we force the focus to the project window, then to the mixer. So regardless of what state is in, then our key commands for the mixer will automatically carry over and will be applicable. So that's how you could kind of assure the focus on the correct window. All right, so we see from Pete, that was even easier than I thought. All right, so we have a question, how to pin tracks so that when you scroll down, you could always see specific tracks you choose. Okay, so let's say I always want the bass track to be up top. So we have this little function here, and it's pretty subtle, where you can see this little divided track list. So if we click just right here, this little, almost like a slash, so we have a divided track list rather. So now anything that I have up top here, that will stick to the top as I scroll down. So we could have like a lead vocal or a guitar part, you know, marker tracks, whatever we want. So again, we want to activate or deactivate the divide track list function, and then we could just kind of stick particular channels to the top of the particular project window. So let me know if that's helpful. Okay, so a question from Roger Hooper says, the narrow strip that separates the marker, signature, tempo areas from the instrument audio tracks, is there a way to create that to separate groups of tracks? To separate groups of tracks. So it's kind of just two, you know, so with the divide track list, at this point, it's going to be just kind of two zones. So it's not kind of a multi-zone, but what some people will do is place different tracks into folders and open and close folders and kind of deal with, you know, if you have multiple tracks, like, okay, I want my drums here, I want my, you know, my bass part here, that we could kind of move them as needed directly there, kind of within folders, but, you know, but there's not three different, I guess there is three different zones if you have the mixer here. But on the project window for events, it's going to be just two different zones for that. And it's usually, and having two zones often confuses people. So. Okay, and I think this follow-up question says, I'm trying to edit a trailer, so I would like to use a timeline for cutting the video dialogue, not doing this everything, the trailer edit and the movie edit on one timeline because it creates a mess. So if you wanted to see like two separate project windows, like two different timelines, it's... you know, we have one single timeline, but, you know, depending on, you know, what you're working with, you know, maybe if it was a mess for, you know, seeing so many different things, is maybe placing them into particular folder tracks and opening and closing folder tracks. But if you have like maybe like a short video or a screenshot that you want to share with me at clubcubase@steinberg.de, I'd be happy to take a look at it and see if I come up with something else. Okay, so we have a question. In the MIDI remote, I made a controller mapping. Is there a way to change input or output port after you've made the mapping? All right, so let's see if... Okay, so let's come over here. It might be set once the controller has been defined. So I think that once I'll just come over, let's make a new controller mapping. Okay, so let's say I just want to put this on my UR24C port. Okay, so I'll just add a couple parameters here. Don't have anything actually hooked up. Try just a different port so I can add. Let's try to jump back to my choy sauce. Yeah, I think once you've defined a port that it will kind of be committed to that. Yeah, so I think once the port has been defined, so you might have to delete it and then rebuild it if you wanted to change the port. I know that could seem silly, so sorry about that. All right, so we have Nicholas checking in from Sweden as well. So Uno Memento wants people to smash the like button, and we see that Michael Teams from Weatherford, Texas is on, so I believe the virtual ice cream will begin. Okay, so I just see I want to move upstream of the playing, cursor position in Zoom to edit, but not jump the play position. The key commands enter the zoom on the playing position. The timeline drag zoom leaps for the play position. All right, so let's say, I think if we want to, let's say while it's playing. Okay, so it says you want to move upstream of the playing. So, you know, if you So if we fast forward, we can move upstream. But not jump the play position. All right, so let's say, like if I wanted to do edits later in the project, so let's say if I'm here, so if I wanted to just come here and do edits, so you know my play position is here, so we could just kind of navigate right here. So if you just even hold down the shift key and then move your mouse scroll wheel, you can navigate ahead without affecting the play position. So we say, okay, I just wanted to do fade in here. I want to make this louder. I wanted to reverse this. And still our play position is unaffected. So maybe just the shift key plus the mouse scroll wheel. So let me know if that does what you want to do. Just like that, if you wanted to edit ahead, like kind of jump up, like later in the project. All right, so we see Sable Winters, who may not be able to join the Zoom today. Glad that you could at least pop in, and she's number 34 in the likes. Okay. All right, so we have a question. Is there a way somehow to integrate Dorco into the workflow of Cubase, or at least make the score editor easier to use for manually inputting quite a lot of notes? Right now, it takes a bit of effort. So I think we'll see more integration in the future. You know, there's been discussion of that publicly. I think on the Dorco team for, you know, and that's something that we wanted to make sure that we had all of that. But let's say if we wanted to just do a new part in the score editor, you know, so it's not too bad to get started. So if you wanted to just come over and let's just add quick instrument track. All right, so, you know, you could enable, you know, keyboard input. So if you just kind of click, you know, directly over here. So you could just say, let me just find the right. Trying to remember where the little keyboard input, but then you could often put in notes kind of using the keyboard, similar to Dorco. So I think if we just click here, so now if I just say, okay, I want this to be, you know, half notes or quarter notes, you know, I could just say C, D, E, F. Hit the space bar, and then you could change the, you know, keyboard shortcuts. So you could often, you know, put in notes very kind of similar manner to Dorco. So if you want kind of a Dorco workflow, you know, you could do it with, you know, directly in step entry, but you could also just activate the keyboard input here. But I think in the future that's kind of a big long-term project, is to kind of integrate the two workflows so that, you know, we'll have kind of seamless integration. All right, so we see, not sure if it's a question, but make MIDI CC automation more cozy. And with VST Contact 6, is it possible? So, obviously when we want to look at our CC data, we could, click here, say, okay, I just wanted this to be, so let's say, okay, now I just want to look at, and I'll just take off my snap. So if I've recorded, so I'm not sure what you mean by more cozy. So let's say, okay, I wanted this to be volume, and I wanted to add, let's say, expression. We could now kind of come over here. We could resize each of these and be able to do, so if you want to make it cozy, we could, do this pretty easily. And then if we wanted to save presets of these particular keyboard controller lane setups, that we could do that. So, but maybe if you could let me know what you intend by more cozy, and that will just kind of work exactly. So, yeah, but if there's anything you're missing, just please let us know. All right, so we see question. This is aesthetic. How do I make my mix panel pretty with all the track colors? My elements look bare by comparison. All right, so if you have a project here and you want the mix consoles to carry over the project colors, so let's say if I wanted to come, I'll activate this project. So I wanted the colors of the project to be carried over into the mix console. So when we come over here, and have the channels colorized, it's just going to be a preference. So if we go to preferences, and under user interface, we'll see track and mix console channel colors. And then if you'll see mix console channel. So if I hit apply, we can now see that will be not colorized. And if I check that, it'll be colorized with the colors from the tracks being carried over into the mixer. So let me know if that makes sense, if that's what you wanted to do. All right, wonderful to see Mark Rabin from Montana on. We hope Stella's doing well. All right, so we have a question. What is the key command to open and close the video window? So it's just F8. So just hit the function F8 key. All right, wonderful to see Tim Weinheimer on. All right, so we see question. How do you assign different Q mixes to different headphones? So in Cubase Pro, we have something called the control room. So you want to make sure that we can define the control room and set it up in our audio connections. So here we could right click and add Q mixes. So I've added mixes here for vocals, guitars, bass, and drums. So we have 4 different headphone mixes. And what we want to do is to define where these are going out of our audio interface. So we would want to have an audio interface that has multiple, independent outputs. So if I wanted 4 stereo headphone outs, that would take 8, mono outputs of my audio interface. And I would just say, okay, this is going out to, outputs 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10. So we could have those set up directly there. So some audio interfaces, you'll be able to remap particular outputs to headphones, or if you don't have enough headphone outputs on your audio interface, at that point you could choose to just connect a stereo out into a headphone amplifier and feed that to the artist. So once we are in a particular project, we could go to our racks, and we'll do this from the large console, and we'll just say, here's our cue sends. So once we come over to our cues, we can now take this particular track, and we can do it for multiply selected tracks. And then I say, okay, I need this bass track to go out, to the vocalist. So we could turn this on here and send it out to the vocalist. And we could come over here and send more to the drums and more to the bass player. Probably wants to hear more of their headphone mix. So we could just simply come right over here and we could activate. So if I just wanted to quickly right click in, and we can see these reflected here in our control room. But if we right click, we can say, okay, I want to activate all cue sends. So I'm going to select all the tracks in my project. So I'll right click here and we'll go to all cues. So let's activate all the cue sends. And then if I wanted to take my current, So if I wanted to take my current mixer levels, I could go to all cue sends. And let's use our current mix levels. And this will carry over all the mixer settings directly over. So now at this point, we can say, okay, on this track, I wanted to take, the bass track, let's say. And I wanted to send more of the bass to, the guitars. But the vocalist doesn't want to hear the bass as much. And we could send varying amounts of our tracks, so through the cue sends, through the control room, out to the headphone amps, whose connections are defined in the control room configuration for the cue mixes that could be added by right-clicking and choosing Add Cue Mix. All right. All right, so we see, and this may be a follow-up to like the MIDI CC data. Can you explain me how to manipulate the controllers via wheel of mouse? All right, so let's say if we have controller data, let me just go to a different project. So often controller data is going to be, written in. So, or like, but if you wanted to edit the controller data, so let's say, let's come here, let's take our modulation. All right, let me just take off my snap. Okay, so if I wanted to come over here, so if I wanted to raise or lower, so it's not necessarily with the wheel of the mouse, and the wheel of the mouse isn't necessarily going to write the MIDI data itself. So you could use something like, a modulation wheel on your controller. You may be able to, so if we wanted to tilt, or let's say compress the contents or expand the contents of our controllers, but it's not really intended. Let's see if we could maybe come up with a way of writing MIDI CC data with a mouse. With the mouse scroll wheel. All right, so say if I want it to come here, and let's say under MIDI inserts, maybe we go to MIDI control. Let's see if this is writable into. Okay, so let's say I want to take this part here. I'm going to just click on the MIDI record output to the track. And let's say as I play this, all right, and let's see if I just, let me just set my MIDI record mode to merge. Okay, so I'm just going to start this off here. So I'm using my mouse scroll wheel. All right, let me try just recording in the editor. All right, so let's see if we. So if you needed to write it in with the mouse, go to the MIDI controller here, and then it's a MIDI plugin, and just place it into record, and then you could set your MIDI controllers here and be able to record that data with your scroll wheel if you needed to write in MIDI CC with the mouse wheel. So I've never done that before, but it worked. Okay. All right, just going through questions. Sorry, my chat field is jumping on me. All right, so all right, so we see so just see question, what if I want to put those 10 to 15 tracks back, but in different tracks, normally puts all to the cursor position. All right, so you probably make a macro to do that. Let's go ahead and take a quick look. So let's say I want to come over here, and I'm going to quickly post the Zoom meetup link one more time as I'm opening up a project here. Okay, so let's say, so if we put it to different tracks, it's all going to go to different tracks. So we could probably make a macro. So let's say if I wanted to, so if I put on the same track, okay, so let's say, so if we wanted to make a macro to maybe do that, let's see if we could get that. Okay, so say, so I think if we choose nudge down, all right, let me see if I can remember the key command. All right, so let's, see if this works. Yeah, I'm sure I could play around with the macro and maybe have it for Fridays, but I'm sure that we could select this and then, go to the end of the event and then select the next event and move it to the current cursor position. But if you want to send me a quick email, since we have kind of a shorter time, I won't necessarily go into all of it today. But I'll try to have it prepared for next Friday's live stream, or this Friday's. All right, so we have a question. Is it possible to add subtitles, .srt file, or any other format? So if you wanted to add subtitles to the video, so, Cubase doesn't have the ability to do that. So, but in Nuendo, you have the capability of overlaying text in the video, but it's not a function that's in Cubase. It's part of the ADR functionality that's in Nuendo. Okay, reading through comments. Thanks for all the great comments. All right, so we just see a comment. Just want to say, since I started being in these Hangouts with Greg, anything helpful and requested thing I learned and asked were added as an update, and I got tons of examples to talk about. So it's great. Yeah, I always pass along all the comments of the questions asked in live streams and communicate that to Steinberg, and are always really anxious to get that feedback. All right, so we see Matt Elston from UK. Thanks for joining us. All right, so just see follow up on the play position editing while zooming. It says I have a very large project, like 20 minutes in length, and I need to zoom in and out to find the event, then zoom in to edit, then zoom out again for context. Okay, so maybe one thing to check that a lot of people don't know. So let's say if we have kind of a large project that we're zoomed in on, so let's say, let's do a different project that will be more YouTube friendly. Bear with me just for a second. All right, so let's say we have our project here. Just get everything loaded. All right, so let's say we're zoomed in a good amount here. So let's say, we're playing our project here. So let's say. So if you hold down the shift key, you can navigate also kind of independently and zoom in on different sections without affecting the playhead position. So a lot of people, when they zoom in, it automatically, as soon as they let go, it'll release the playhead. But now we can kind of zoom in while holding down a shift key, and it's not going to affect the playhead position. So let me know if that is helpful for kind of your workflow. This is from Damon. All right, so we see Roger Hooper has to start a job. So thanks for joining us, Roger. I hope you and your family are well. All right, so we just see this is a question. Thanks for these tips. I'm interested to know if you would advise a USB mixer line 12 instead of an interface to connect with Cubase if we also want to make some live music. So, I don't mind. I think that the, mixers with a USB output are great. Sometimes they only do stereo out for the recording, and that's kind of, so that is kind of a limitation. So, but I think if you do like a USB mixer that has discrete outputs for each of the channels, it's a great solution for a lot of people. And if you're taking out live, you could do multi-track recording, but a lot of the mixers just have like a stereo output. And if that's the case, you're probably better off if you need it more, so like whatever is going through the mixer at the time will be kind of recorded. And you don't have discrete inputs for the different channels of the mixer. All right, so we see how would you go about selecting a different group of instruments and switching back and forth quickly between, say, oboe, flute, bassoon, and clarinet, flute? Could save a lot of time. All right, so let's see if we could do like a multi-link. Let me just open up a different project here quickly. We'll just do something with some winds. Okay, I'll just start with this. All right, so let's say as we're working on this, let's say we have... All right, so let's say I wanted like flute and oboe and bassoon, so I will try just grouping these together. Okay, and let's say if I wanted horn, I'm not sure if I could include something in two different linked groups, but all right, so let's say now I have like these three events selected. So I think, we could do it, like assigning them to groups and then be able to solo, but let me, All right, so let's see if I could. So as we do this, like, so if I select this and hit solo, and we'll have some notes drop out. So say I have this horn part selected. Sorry, they're just, my modifier keys are haunting me here. So you could, take different events and kind of link them together. So let's say, yeah, but if they're going to be shared, so let's say I wanted to link my strings together. So easily to do this, so you could just say, okay, I want to take these, and I'll just hit Control or Command plus like G. So let me just assign these. So now, like when we want to, select different groups, we could just say, okay, as we want to. So you could kind of link them. You could also solo them by names, kind of using the project logical editor. But try just to link the particular channels, and then you could solo based on that. But if you wanted to share multiple combinations, you could do that. But if you wanted to, again, that could be problematic. But you could have different project logical editor presets. So we could say, and let's say even without linking these. I'll revert this quickly. All right, so let's say I want to solo particular, wins. So we'll say let's select container type is track. And we'll say name. And we can say contains flute. All right, so let's say I have this, and then I could just choose to solo. So let's say while we're playing here, we could say, okay, I want to take tracks that have the name, that contain the name flute, oboe, and bassoon, and solo those. And we can see that they're just going to be starting. So we could have different project logical editor presets. So I just want to. So you could have it set up like that by, just by doing names. And I'll just say, or here is my condition. So while we're doing this, so you could set up different conditions in the Project Logical Editor. So now it's good. Save this as a preset. So that's something that you could do quite easily. So let me know if that kind of makes sense. But you can set multiple combinations there, and it's not necessarily tied directly to the, to groups where, and multiple files can be, different tracks can be selected accordingly. All right, so we had a question. Hey, Greg, is there an audio performance advantage to using the URXX USB-C version? So, the URC interfaces do have a higher level converters compared to other UR interfaces. So it's a 32-bit integer converter. It's also going to allow you to have built-in DSP. So, and it can be faster if you have like a high-speed USB 3 compatible, USB port as well. So there are some advantages of built-in DSP, faster transmission, and higher quality converters. All right, so we see from Jackshot Records, just mentioned there's no other company that's as accessible to users as Steinberg is. Greg's a world-class expert in this material and takes questions from the floor twice a week for hours at a time. Hit like. Well, thank you for the kind words. Glad that it's helpful for people. All right. All right, so we have Graham Witcher checking from Royal Wooten Bassett. He's going to be dipping in and out. We have Razol checking in from Denmark. Great to have Kerwin Young. All right, we see some moderation from Jazz Dude. Thank you. All right, so we see measuring with supervision in Cubase 12 Pro. Can I get the same volume in control room main inserts pre and post, and also at the monitor inserts test generator on 12 dB and same LUFS in 3 places mentioned? Okay, so let's go ahead and we just set up a test tone generator here on a track. All right, so let me just... Okay, so it says measuring with supervision in Cubase 12 Pro. Can I get the same volume in control room main inserts, pre and post, and also at the monitor inserts? Let's go ahead and see if it's all consistent here. I'm going to attenuate it just so it doesn't drive everyone crazy. Okay, so we'll have that at the bottom. Let me just... All right, so okay, get the same volume and control room main inserts pre and post also at the monitor inserts, test generator and 12 dB and same LUFS in 3 places mentioned. All right, so I think that this monitor will increase, so if we have this set to 0 dB, we'll see that those will match, but this will be attenuated by the volume knob here on the monitor stage. So that's why you may see a discrepancy directly there. So if you see a discrepancy, it's just because if it could be that this is not set to 0 dB. So let me know if that makes sense. All right, so we see Greg, question. Does Steinberg have a solution like ASIO for all for using separate devices for input and output? So we don't, because it's generally kind of a bad solution because, it doesn't guarantee that the audio interfaces will be synchronized. So when we deal with, digital audio workstations, we like to know when the audio is going out of different devices. And if they're not going to be synchronized, then it's problematic and, can cause all sorts of phasing issues with different latencies and compounding latencies. So if you need multiple devices, consider running something like, an audio interface that has expansion capabilities or an audio interface that has, the ability to expand like, PCI or Firewire interfaces, etc. So, all right. Wonderful to see Madge Deepers on the live stream. Glad you can make it today. All right, so we just see from Diamond District Studios as the Q's feature works best with the Hearback hub system, in my opinion. So actually, you don't need it. You just need you don't need a Hearback system. You could just simply do it all directly with with the Q system. You wouldn't have to necessarily buy a Hearback hub system. So wonderful to see Robbie Bowling from Dallas. We hope you survived the storms last week as well. All right, so we see just a comment, so a question. I've seen a person who showed his Cubase mix console called, and his mix console was divided into 2 parts, which left part was tracks and right part was. So if you wanted to, divide different tracks to different locations, all we had to do is let's just add a bunch of audio tracks here quickly. Okay, so let's say we have a number of tracks all in our project. Of course, I had to create it in third order Ambisonics by mistake. But in the mix console zone, when you go to the visibility, you'll see zones. Let me see if I can get this to respond. Okay. So when we go to our mix console here, and I'll just do it, we could go to visibility and then choose zones. So we could choose these channels to be fixed to the left side of the mixing console, and then we could choose a center zone as well as a right zone so that we could just simply navigate and have 3 different zones split. So again, click on the visibility tab and then click on zones, and then you could anchor particular channels to set zones. There's 3 zones in your mix console. All right, so we see Captenergy Music from Pennsylvania. Thanks for being on the live stream today. All right, John Koskian says, please utilize the like button. All right, so we have a question. How can I audition a MIDI file as a chord when I select more than one MIDI file? Hope you understand. Just trying to... So I don't understand the question. So, we could, generally MIDI files can be previewed through like Howling in Sonic SE, but it doesn't necessarily always correlate. And as we, want to import MIDI files, we can only import one MIDI file at a time. So, but maybe if you could ask the question again in case I'm misunderstanding it. Okay, sorry, my chat field jumped. Okay, reading through comments. Thanks for all the great questions. All right, so we just see from Madge Deepers. Hi, Greg. Is there a place that I could download your macros from, please? So if you want to just send me an email, Madge, to clubcubase@steinberg.de. I think I offered it last time you kind of mentioned it, and some people... I think I sent them to John Costigan, but if you want to just email me to clubcubase@steinberg.de, I'd be happy to share my macros with you. Yeah, and Jazz Dude, if you want to email me, I'd be happy to share my my key commands file, which has all of my macros in it. And if you wanted to put on Discord, I'd be happy. If you want to email me, I'd be happy to send it to you so you could share it. And I could also share Project Logical Editor presets as well. All right, so we see from the Heartbreak Time Machine, I'm learning so much from this. Thank you, Cubase. We're glad that you're learning. So make sure you hit the like button. But thanks for being a part of the live stream. All right, so we see Radar the Band is on. So thanks for joining us. Okay, so we have a question. How do I stop my fade from dropping by itself while playing recording? So I guess maybe if there is like an audio file, so I'm not sure if there's an existing audio file. So, Cubase shouldn't do... if there's automation going on your particular track, like let's say, you have a recording and we see and you're recording and then there's like volume automation that's going on, and you're recording into that. So let's say if I come to this track and record over top and we see the volume automation, So what I would do, if that's the case that you're recording and there's existing volume automation, I would just simply, go to the automation on the track, and you'll see just like we make it a little bigger here, you'll see the read. I would turn the read automation off. But as you're recording into a blank track without existing automation, it's not going to add a fade. But if there is existing automation on a track, like even if you've done some mixing, you're like, oh, I'm going to quickly do an overdub and replace that, then you should then just make sure that you could delete the automation or just bypass the read on the automation. Okay, so we see from Michael or Mikkel, in regard to the subtitle question earlier, I'm editing a foreign language trailer and would like to add the subtitle to the timeline in order. So what a lot of people would do in situations like that is add a marker track. So as we add a marker track, you could come in, let's say we just start to add the markers. I'll select the marker track here. We could go into the inspector, it's good to settings, and at this point we could go to the description and just have text on the marker track in the timeline. So once again, you could just do this. I think it's Control or Command plus M, and then you could just simply add text to go into different spots on the timeline to match up with the video. So let me know if that is helpful. Okay, so we see from Madge Deeper's question, when I apply Very Audio to an audio event, I can't work out how to change the pitch of notes. I see squiggles rather than blocks of color on the event. So sometimes I've heard from people that sometimes their color schemes are preventing this, but you may want to also try to just go to, perhaps resetting the preferences match. And you can do that by holding down Command, Option plus Shift on the Mac after starting the program, or should be Alt Control Shift. But if we come over here to the lead vocal and we're in Very Audio, one is to make sure that you have the Very Audio activated. And as soon as we do that, I'll just take this over and we'll go to Very Audio. See if I have the right. Okay, so now that I'm in the correct area, so you should see the pitch segments here. So it could be maybe a color issue, but try resetting your preferences. Again, Alt Control Shift as you hold down a program, or Command Option Shift and hold it down and choose to temporarily disable, and then you should see the segments appear. But it could be that they're just maybe out of zone, like out of range. So make sure, like if I look at this, it's like, oh, I don't see this, but maybe scroll up or down and see if you see them visible. So we see Barry John's a longtime Pro Tools user, just switched to Nuendo, he believes, from Radar the band. That's great. Glad to hear it. All right, so we have a question. Thanks. I'm a bit confused. All the ASIO for all the different versions of ASIO, etc. What would I benefit from switching to another system with a dedicated driver? So generally, ASIO is a driver architecture. So, and then the intention is that the operating systems had high latency and unpredictable audio performance for their built-in audio drivers. So we built our own, and so it's always more beneficial to have a dedicated ASIO driver for your particular. So it's one protocol, and what ASIO for All is a way of taking the Windows sound driver and running it as an ASIO device to lower latency often. So, but if your audio interface has a dedicated driver, you'll get better performance and more control. All right, so we have a question. Hi, Greg. Could you please explain how to automate pan of a stereo signal? Okay. All right, I'm going to post the Zoom meetup link here. It's going to start in about 20 minutes while we're loading up this project. All right. Okay, so I have a stereo track here. So if I wanted to, just come over here, so there's, two different stereo panners that we could have on the mix console. So let's say we have this selected. So if I wanted to automate this, I could click on the W button to write automation. And then as we would play, just check my routing here quick. Sorry about that. All right, so let's say as we would play this, I'm going to automate we have our panner here. So this is set to our balance panner. So let's say, and now we've automated that. So if we wanted to look at the automation, we could say, okay, let's just come over here. We'll see our pan left to right. Now another panner that we could, if we click on just the right to the panner, is a stereo combined panner. So what this will allow me to do is to set a different panning for the left and right channels independently, or to pan it. If I wanted to flip the channels, we could do that as well. So once we just click on W, that would write the automation, and then we could just move the panner on the channel itself. All right, so we see I have a .move format, Apple ProRes imported to Nuendo 12, and when playing the video, it's playing, but the video is cropped in a way half the frame is missing. The movie is 38 by 40 by 21, 3840 by 2160. And it says, does 1080p the only way to work at the moment in Nuendo 12? So that's generally the standard for doing post-production is going to be 1080p. So always, if you have the option to work at 1080p, that's, going to be what's used in, just about every post-production scenario. So. All right, so we see, hi Greg, question. Is there a quick and easy way to click and drag a plugin with its current settings to copy onto multiple tracks rather than one at a time? Okay, so let's say I have plugin here. So just add a couple of plugins. Okay, so I have these plugins. So let's say I want to, I think if we go to the bottom here and then right click. We could copy the first channel selection settings. And then if I select a number of tracks here, say multiple tracks, that now we could paste settings to selected channels. And then we could see all the plugins kind of carried over that way. All right, so I could just see, I could set up MIDI CC with smells in the multimedia show. It's important for MIDI 2.0. So yeah, maybe I don't, yeah, maybe it's a translation service that's not working. So, but you know, generally it's very easy to work with MIDI CCs for a lot of MIDI 2.0 stuff that's already there. All right, so we see, hi Greg, you're doing a great job, learned a lot from you. Question, is there a possibility to see the track when you're in the mixer and skip a few seconds forwards or backwards? Okay. All right, so let's say if we're in the mixer, let me just jump to a different project so we can see some more tracks. I assume that it's in the so, you know, there are transport controls. So a lot of people will be kind of in the mixer and these could be added into the mixer itself. So let's say, okay, we want to fast forward. Just jump back, sorry. So let's say if I'm here in the mixer, you know, we could fast forward and rewind and stop by the transport controls directly in the mixer. So if you want to just rewind, fast forward, or go to next or previous marker, you could do that quite easily. So if you just want to like fast forward a little bit or rewind a little bit from within the mixer, you could activate the transport controls in the mix console. So let me know if that's helpful. All right, so we just see bless this community with world-class expert answering everyone's questions, helpful moderators. I wish every community would be like this. Bless you all, people. It warms your heart. So thank you for the kind words. All right, so we see, hi Greg, does Cubase have the capacity to apply ADSR filter and amp envelopes to stereo audio in real time just by playing a key so you only hear audio while key is down and sound is shaped by the ADSR, for example, on the sampler track? So if you wanted to kind of listen to everything here, you know, one of the things that you could do, and you could probably set this up, you know, if you go to the envelope shaper plugin, so, you know, and we can see this under dynamics, and let me know, but if you wanted to, like, let's say while you're playing the mix, I mean, you could just adjust kind of ADSR. And you could do this. And if you wanted to send a MIDI message to turn this on and off, to like remote control it for creative uses. So if you wanted that for the full mix, you could just activate that. Or so you could have those set as quick controls to activate or turn on and off. So let me know if you wanted more for synthesis, but if you want it on the master mix, you could try just the envelope shaper plugin. And great to see you on the live stream, Ted. All right, so we see, is there a macro that one keys that switch between sample rates? So, what you could do, because if you're switching between sample rates, you may have to actually convert the files. So probably the easiest way to do this is just go to the project setup and change the sample rate here. So if I want to take the sample rate of this project, you'll get a couple of questions. So, the first one, do you want to convert the samples? Yes. Do you want to keep the audio files, the original audio files in the original sample rates? Why not? So we'll keep, and then in this one, do you want to keep at the sample positions? Choose no. And then if you have musical, so at the sample positions here, you want to just say no, and then try and do that. So it's not necessarily a macro because projects will have to be, actually, written. So it could take, depending on how many files there are for that particular process. So we see a question. Hi, help me use the Steinberg USB controller model CMC QC. So, the QC will you'll see once you install the software for it, you'll see it show up here in your controller list in your studio setup. And at that point, it's going to automatically control whatever quick control parameters that you have activated. So if you wanted to come over here to quick controls, at that point, we could just say, okay, it's going to control these quick controls. So, and you could assign quick controls using, for any plugin as well that you want to be controlled. So if you come over here, say, okay, I just want to go to my multi-band compressor, you could choose what elements that you want for the quick controls on each plugin now in version 12. All right, sorry, all right, so we see question, is it possible to give fade effects into the music created in the piano roll? So let's come over, because obviously fades on, because MIDI itself doesn't have a sound. So if you wanted to, have MIDI data, so let's say if we're here, so we could send a MIDI CC message. So it's, if you wanted to just write automation, we could, write automation on the particular track, or you could just choose to write main volume controls. And at this point, we could just say, okay, I just want to put in my volume controls, and let me just, let's say I just want to take this and let me just kind of switch to ramp mode. So you could just kind of do fades like that as part of MIDI messages, but realize that MIDI and audio are not the same types of data. All right, we got about 9 minutes left before you migrate over to the Zoom. All right, so we see Gerald Ely checking in from Martinez, this is California. Glad you can make this. All right, so we have a question. What version is this? This is Cubase 12 Pro. Nick is getting coffee before the Zoom. Uncool. Anyway. Looking forward to see you on the Zoom, Nick. All right, so we see in regard to the subtitles, I meant once importing a movie into Nuendo 12, I wanted to also import the subtitle. The movie's an hour and a half. It's not ideal to add them manually. So, I mean, it seems more like the subtitles would be more of a video editing task than an audio one. So, but you... so we see, is there an option to import the subtitle file to Nuendo? We'll get the timing from the file. If so, how please? So you can import a CSV file, and that will show up in the editor itself, like as an overlay, but it may not, I don't think it's going to import it into the video file, but it will do an overlay for ADR purposes. But if you wanted the subtitles to be, applied from Nuendo, I don't think it's really set up for that. All right, so we have the artist known as Love checking in from New York. All right, and we see Gareth on, and he just wants to remind everyone to smash the like button. All right, so we see, hi Greg, on my toolbar I have an arrow with a little clock on top of it, and I'm not sure why it keeps popping up. Can you show me how it is and how to use it? All right, so it's probably with this little toolbar here. So there's 3 different modes for the object selection. So if I have an audio event, I could choose to, in the first mode, just kind of hide different parts. So if we don't see it, we don't hear it. Or if we have an audio event that's been, we could go sizing moves contents. So as I size, we could just kind of move the contents over. Like I can move the beginning. If I move the end of the file, the beginning will fall where it will. Or if I move the beginning of the file, the end will fall where it will. And it sounds like maybe you're in sizing applies time stretch, which would say, okay, take this audio file, make it fit into this amount of space. So, and so if you wanted to get it back, you could probably just hit the 1 key on your QWERTY computer keyboard and cycle back and forth between the 3 different modes, or just click here and go to normal sizing. So I just see Greg was at the music from Farming Simulator 2019. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure which track it was. So, but all right. So you see Ted Springman just saying awesome on the envelope shaper. We have Mike Rivera checking in from San Antonio. All right. We're going to try to get through as many questions as we can here before we migrate over to Zoom. Okay, so we see, how do I get this small divider under his marker track? All you have to do is you'll see a divide track list function. So if we want to just come over here, you'll see just in this little drop down menu here, click right there, and then you could have tracks that are divided that will kind of be fixed into two different zones, so at the top or the bottom zone, just like that. So I think marker tracks generally default to being in the upper zone. So, but you have, again, up to 10 marker tracks. All right, so we see, hey, Greg, I work in post-production, and sometimes I have to edit my Nuendo project to fit a new video montage. Can you advise the easiest way to move tons of tracks and clips inside the project? So, one of the things that you could do if you have a number of tracks selected, I mean, you could easily move them or move all selected tracks here in Nuendo. There is a reconform function. So if you have an edit decision list from the video edit program, what you could actually do at that point is reconform. So if they say, oh, we cut out, 3 minutes and 16 seconds out of this cue, you could get the edit decision list, import that in, and Nuendo will automatically do the reconform for you. All right, see how we're doing on time. So I think we're just got through most of the questions. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and paste the Zoom link, and I'll start to Zoom in just a minute. All right, so we see Jazz Dude just saying, I assume later this year there will be a special upgrade offer for Cubase. All right. So maybe even sooner than you think. All right. Hint, hint. All right. Okay, so we see Michael Pierce on. He's just saying reconform revelation of the day, still just learning Nuendo. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start up the Zoom, and we will migrate over to the Zoom. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting. So if people want to migrate over. So, and again, if you haven't done a Zoom meetup, it's a wonderful way to kind of meet other people on the live streams. They're always really enjoyable. I want to thank everyone for all the wonderful questions. I hope that everyone has learned something new. And we will just start getting people in. You see Brian and Jan. All right, we have Jay. And once again, we'll be doing this on Friday starting at 1 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. I'll be probably the only person working late on the Friday before Labor Day in America, but we'll keep our schedule. All right. We'll wait just a couple more minutes. I'm going to turn my light on in my office so I don't look like I'm sunburned with bad light in Zoom. All right, you see Thomas Van Dyke made it. All right, and I'll post one more time the Zoom link in the live stream. All right, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the live stream. And I want to thank everyone. Everyone, please stay safe and healthy. And we'll see everyone on Friday. Let's see, we're one like away from 100. All right.